All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Welcome all. I know. It's an exciting time to be in the world. It's the whitewater rafting trip of life. We do it here every day for a couple of hours. We start usually a little after the top of the hour. And in this first hour, John Rothman, the brilliant historian, presidential historian, author, lecturer, he joins us. And in hour two, Belinda Waymouth reports on, she's got a following too. Reports on those things involving the environment and such. We will go to Davos to talk about what's happening there. The Mad King is showing his madness. It's on full display, and we will give you a sense of it. In fact, I think...
Don't talk to me that way.
I think the reality is that the world is struggling with how to deal with the madness of Donald Trump.
Don't talk to me that way.
Okay, I'm just saying.
That was very inappropriate.
It is all too familiar. So,
Mark, are you here?
Yeah.
Yes, he's here.
All right.
Mark.
Yeah, hello. The like button is on full display to you. If you haven't hit it, please
Smash
do.
it
It
with
matters
your
to
iron
us
rod.
in the world of YouTube. Thank you. I'll also tell you what's in full display is a poll. It is live now in the chat, I believe. It was an effort to get it done. We are without Tony today, only have Kim.
Kim, how are you?
Kim is a brilliant news person. And, of course, I'm brilliant in every way, as you're aware.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah, I'm
kind of a big deal.
But neither one of us is particularly skilled in the area of putting stuff up like polls, managing videos, which is why we need to fire each other and get two more people in here.
Mm-hmm.
But until that happens, we struggle. That is a lengthy preamble to tell you that the poll, you see, that's what I'm saying. It starts with a yes or no. Yeah, it shouldn't. I don't know why that starts with a yes or no. It shouldn't say yes or no. I'm sorry.
We tried.
Yeah, I'm going to try to change that. Talk to the boys and girls for a moment. I'm really angry about everything today.
I know, but we're going to move forward. We've got a great show planned.
Yeah.
I saw in the chat, and while you're fixing that, I'll put this chat up. I saw in the chat, which made me look up the story, that Governor Gavin Newsom went all the way to Davos, Switzerland, to give this speech, and he was banned from doing so. Yeah, here's the tweet, the message from Adolf Twitler this morning in the chat. The White House blocked Gavin Newsom from giving his speech that he was invited to Davos to make. And that, it turns out, is 100% true.
That's just insane.
Isn't
it really
it?
is. It's
The
so
Newsom
wrong.
administration says the State Department pressure in Davos meant the cancellation of his speech. He was going to meet different countries have different houses set up and things happen in the houses. He was going to the USA House to talk to, I think it was Fortune or some type of outlet. He was going to give this speech, and at the 11th hour, Fortune at USA House in Davos was canceled. He was supposed to speak at this sponsored event by USA House, which for the first time was recognized by the US government as the country's official headquarters at Davos. But an organizer told his office they had opted to not include any officials in the talk, focused on CEOs and other business leaders. The Newsom administration talked to Politico, and they said the official, the Newsom official, accused the USA House of bowing to political pressure from the State Department. They're denying it, the organizers, but they're saying the governor is still welcome at their venue. You can't speak here, but you're still welcome to walk in. So there you have it.
It's wild. It really is wild. But that's the state of the state right now. So I I will tell you that, of all the levers of influence that Trump is wielding, that may be, or monkeying with, that may be, sort of right on brand for him to snuff out any oppositional speech. And speaking of oppositional speech, I'm going to play a little bit of Mark Carney. The Canadians are finally getting tough. And on our live poll, you'll just have to live with the yes or no, ignore it. Ignore yes or no, and weigh in on one of the two options offered. I mean, do you negotiate with the Americans to somehow placate this mad king who is running America? Or do you stand firm and really offer a firm roadblock to America right now, as they seem to be committed, the Trump administration, to messing with the world order? Trump is ruling out the use of force. He said that. I watched his entire thing last night. I watched his entire thing today from Davos. And it's just wild to watch this guy meander. I mean, completely meander from one thought to another, getting back on prompter, getting back on point, but he's really just unmoored. I mean, and you hear him relitigating the 2020 election. He's saying he's going to prosecute those who were involved in stealing that election from him. He goes after Ilhan Omar. I mean, these people at the Davos Economic Forum don't want to hear about your pissing match with Ilhan Omar. And the fictions that Donald Trump spins, a lot of stuff around the military, perfect military operation. People are coming to me saying, sir, that's the most perfect military operation. All of your military operations are so perfect. Well, first of all, the military operations, whatever perfection's associated with them, has nothing to do with Trump. It's not like he's out there training these guys. You know what I mean? Then he pivots to try to kind of claim credit further by talking about the budget for the military, which is $1.5 trillion, he says, in America. That's what he wants. But it's a bad brag, okay? I mean, this saber-rattling mad king can only talk about military accomplishments, and he did a whole riff on battleships, how he's ordered new ones. To me, it's a direct reflection of where he is. It's truly the imperial presidency. And I think it's reflected in virtually his every utterance. Go ahead, Kim.
You know how offensive it is for him to come out and say, basically, I'm paraphrasing here, we could beat the holy hell out of you. We could kick your ass, but I've decided not to.
Yeah, that's exactly where he is. In fact, I'll play you some Mark Carney in a second, but let me play you some of what Kim's talking about. The stuff that Kim's talking about is related to Trump speaking. Now, this is where I have to do something, and it's even worse. I'm worse than Kim. Kim's bad, but I'm much worse than Kim.
Oh, that's not very nice.
No, it's true.
No,
You're not good, and I'm worse.
No.
I mean, I got to be honest. You're getting better. I'm not. You're way ahead of me. Don't get me wrong, but I'm. Let me just try to get it.
We're muddling through without our Tony. It's going to be all right.
Well, now I can't find it. So let's start with Mark Carney, and you'll get a sense for how the Europeans and the world community in the West is dealing with and rethinking their relationship with America. Go ahead.
That every day we're reminded that we live in an era of great power rivalry, that the rules-based order is fading, that the strong can do what they can and the weak must suffer what they must. And this aphorism of Thucydides is presented as inevitable, as the natural logic of international relations reasserting itself. And faced with this logic, there is a strong tendency for countries to go along to get along, to accommodate, to avoid trouble, to hope that compliance will buy safety. Well, it won't. So what are our options? In 1978, the Czech dissident Václav Havel, later president, wrote an essay called The Power of the Powerless. And in it, he asked a simple question: how did the communist system sustain itself? And his answer began with the greengrocer. Every morning, this shopkeeper places a sign in his window: "Workers of the world unite." He doesn't believe it. No one does. But he places the sign anyway to avoid trouble, to signal compliance, to get along. And because every shopkeeper on every street does the same, the system persists. Not through violence alone, but through the participation of ordinary people in rituals they privately know to be false. Havel called this living within a lie. The system's power comes not from its truth, but from everyone's willingness to perform as if it were true. And its fragility comes from the same source. When even one person stops performing, when the greengrocer removes his sign, the illusion begins to crack. Friends, it is time for companies and countries to take their signs down. For decades, countries like Canada prospered under what we called the rules-based international order. We joined its institutions, we praised its principles, we benefited from its predictability. And because of that, we could pursue values-based foreign policies under its protection. We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false, that the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient, that trade rules were enforced asymmetrically. And we knew that international law applied with varying rigor depending on the identity of the accused or the victim. This fiction was useful. And American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. So we placed the sign in the window. We participated in the rituals. And we largely avoided calling out the gaps between rhetoric and reality. This bargain no longer works. Let me be direct.
Stop for a moment for a second.
We are in the midst of a rupture.
This is really key. I think this may be one of the great cornerstone speeches at Davos in this cornerstone moment for a new beginning in terms of world order. And what Carney is saying is the rules-oriented world order of the past, A, no longer works for us, and B, in a way, it was flawed always. That's what he's saying. He's saying America used to always take advantage. Make no mistake, he's talking about America when he says the hegemonic powers used to take advantage of the rules-based order. Some of the rules didn't apply to them. They worked around the rules. We know that as Americans, right? We don't sign up for any kind of international court holding us responsible for war crimes in The Hague. There are any number of ways in terms of trade, in terms of military actions, that we will play within the order and the rules if it favors us, but if not, we just do what we want. And that's what Carney is recognizing. And essentially, he's saying that was okay for us. We knew that America wasn't really playing by the rules, but they were in their essence, they were working for all of us. In their essence, they were still about freedom. They were still about fighting oppression. They were still about exporting. These are all implied notions, but it's pretty clear what he's saying. They were always about exporting the best of America. USAID. In fact, the NATO alliance, of course, hinged very much on the power of America, the money of America, and the military power of America. And this is something that's going to change as well. I think what you're going to find is that you're going to find America's military bases rethought by the Europeans now. The military presence that America has in Europe is, everything's on the table now. So I find this Carney speech, I think it's a watershed moment. Listen to Trump speaking also. And with Trump, you get the meandering, but you also get the militarism. And then I'll play for you the Finnish leader who was asked point blank, can Europe win a war without the Americans? I'll play that for you in a moment. But here is the Mad King in his comments.
Yes, he's here. Hello, Mark. We never asked for anything, and we never got anything. We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that. Okay? Now everyone's saying, oh, good. That's probably the biggest. Already had it as a trustee, but respectfully returned it back to Denmark not long ago after we defeated the Germans, the Japanese, the Italians, and others in World War II. We gave it back to them. We were.
By the way, I'll just make this point. America has been dining out on what we did in World War II for too long. It was an extraordinary thing and an extraordinary sacrifice that the Americans made in World War II. But we've been dining out on that for too long. And this, you see, is what Trump defaults to, right? The superpower that was super and righteous. That's what he goes back to. But those days have faded.
Force then, but we are a much more powerful force now. After I rebuilt the military in my first term and continue to do so today, we have a budget of $1.5 trillion. We're bringing back battleships. The battleship is 100 times more powerful than the great battleships you saw in World War II, those great, big, gorgeous ships, the Missouri, the Iowa, the Alabama. Because I thought maybe we could take them out of mothballs. They said, no, sir, these ships are 100, think of that, 100 times more powerful than those big, magnificent pieces of art.
Battleships are a waste of money. What a colossal waste of money.
That you still see on television.
Again,
you say,
wow, fight the World War. 100 times. Fight World War II with battleships, the new battleships. Go ahead.
Than the big battleships of the past.
Yeah, the drones could take out the battleships, or at least
story.
Attack those battleships.
So what we have gotten out of NATO is nothing except to protect Europe from the Soviet Union and now Russia. I mean, we've helped them.
Thank you, Randy. Battleships are irrelevant in modern war. I agree.
Except we pay for NATO. And we paid for many years until I came along. We paid for, in my opinion, 100% of NATO because they weren't paying their bills. And all we're asking for is to get Greenland, including right title and ownership, because you need the ownership to defend it. You can't defend it on a lease. Number one, legally it's not defensible that way, totally. And number two, psychologically, who the hell wants to defend a license agreement or a lease, which is a large piece of ice in the middle of the ocean where if there is a war, much of the action will take place on that piece of ice. Think of it. Those missiles would be flying right over the center of that piece of ice. All we want from Denmark for national and international security and to keep our very energetic and dangerous potential enemies at bay is this land on which we're going to build the greatest golden dome ever built. We're building a golden dome.
This is another thing.
It's going to,
Listen
just
to this.
by its very nature, going to be defending Canada. Canada gets a lot of freebies from us.
This is only the beginning.
They should be grateful also, but they're not. I watched your prime minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful. But they should be grateful to us. Canada Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements.
Wow.
What we
That
did
is a
for
huge, that is a straight up mobster line.
Wow.
You walk because I let you walk.
Holy
You
mackerel.
live because I let you live. That is truly, this is, he's the gangster in chief. I've called him that before, but this is really where his gangster comes out in the, brutish way.
Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements. What we did for Israel was amazing, but that's nothing compared to what we have planned for the United States, Canada, and the rest of the world. We are going to build a dome like no other. We did it for Israel. And by the way, I told Bibi, stop taking credit for the dome. That's our technology. That's our stuff. But they had a lot of courage, and they were good fighters, and they did a good job, and we wiped out the Iran nuclear threat like nobody can believe. Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
Well, the Iran nuclear threat, as you know, was hobbled. It was hurt, but it hasn't been wiped out like nobody can ever believe. And the Golden Dome, we don't even know what he's talking about right now, and nor does he. And Golden Dome, we're going to build it to be all over Europe. It'll be all over Canada. We're protecting everybody. I mean, this is, and this goes on for a long time.
Venezuela, taking down Soleimani, wiping out al-Baghdadi when he tried to reinstitute ISIS. We did a lot. I did a lot of big things, all perfectly executed. Everyone was perfectly executed. Somebody told me that, a military expert told me, sir, everything you've done has been perfectly executed. I said, I know. So other presidents,
yeah, like getting out of military service when you were asked to fight for the country during. Yeah, that was something that was perfectly executed. That's a little flavor of Trump's.
It's embarrassing.
Comments.
As an American, I'm humiliated right now. Like that's what we have to offer the world.
I want to quickly, as promised, give you a bit of the Finnish leader asked if you all reposition without America, if America pulls back from the NATO agreement and other cooperative military agreements. And this is, as I said, a watershed moment. But can Europe fight and win a war without America? Here you go. You have to unmute it, I think, please. You have to unmute it.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Needs to come up with the plan B and lead the charge.
Well, I mean, two answers.
Can you go
First
back a little bit so we can hear the
answer to
question?
the
Thank you.
of this panel, can Europe defend it?
Okay, it's fine.
Really
I'm sorry.
doing a lot when
I
it
guess
comes to defense, especially Finland. You have this comprehensive approach to defense in your country. Are your partners, are they experiencing the urgency? Who needs to come up with the plan B and lead the charge?
Well, I mean, two answers. First is a direct answer to the question of this panel, can Europe defend itself? My answer is unequivocally yes.
Without the Americans?
Without the Americans, I mean...
How?
Well, look...
But you're relying on them for these key elements. How would you do it at scale and at duration and at intensity?
With an assumption that the United States would cut off completely any kind of work.
Yeah.
Well, if we look at the defense composure of Europe by and large, in a country like Finland, so how do we do it? We have conscription. 1 million have done it. We can mobilize 280,000 soldiers within weeks. We have 62 F-18s. Your next question is going to be, do they fly without Americans? No, they don't. But do we trust that they will continue to fly because it's in the interest of America to do so? Yes. We just bought 64 F-35s. We have the biggest artillery in Europe together with Poland. We have long-range missiles, land, sea, and air. We don't have these because we're worried about Stockholm, right? So, the bottom line is that if you ask me the question that can the Finnish military defend itself against a Russian attack, the whole defense posture of the way in which you do it, yes, we can. But then the second question, which you were alluding to, I think we also have to understand that you fight wars on the battlefield, but you win them at home. And that means that all of us need to focus more on comprehensive security. the civilian side of things. That's why we have civilian shelters for 4.4 million Finns. That's why we have a security of supply where we don't get into any kind of trouble with food shortages, energy shortages, or electricity grids, because we've got this. And this is the, I think, capability that a lot of European states need to do. My absolutely final point. It's all good and well to talk about percentages, but just remember, you don't fight wars with percentages. You fight wars with capabilities, and those you just need to have in stock.
Do European NATO allies need to think more about having capabilities that overlap with the United States?
Well, this is
to hedge their bets.
The NATO is constructed like this, that the US, Canada, and the European NATO allies were completely integrated. It doesn't mean that there is the US coming to the rescue of Europe or Europe coming to the rescue of the United States. We are working completely integrated. And for the protection of both the US and Europe, it's crucial that NATO is there. There was one big irritant on the American side with NATO. And the big irritant since Eisenhower was that they were spending, the US was spending, so much more than Europe was spending. Even today, the US is spending 3.5% of GDP on core defense. We are spending in Europe average 2% of defense. And here's my question to force us in Europe to step up, to face the consequences, that we have to take care more of our own defense. And this is the thing. The Americans still have over 80,000 soldiers in Europe. They are still, including in Poland, in Germany, etc. They are still heavily invested in European defense. And yes, they have to pivot more towards Asia. So it is only logical for them to expect us in Europe to step up over time. And there is this plan already since Jens Stoltenberg, my predecessor, designed it, the NATO defense planning process, to over time make sure that Europe can take over more of these capabilities, of these core enablers from the US, to do more of the protection of the European continent. We're still having a strong conventional US presence in Europe, also going forward. And of course, the nuclear umbrella as our ultimate guarantor. But again, I'm absolutely convinced without Donald Trump, we would not have taken those decisions, and they are crucial, particularly for the European and the Canadian side of NATO, to really grow up in the post-Cold War world.
I really wanted you to hear that, because I think it's important. Again, you know how I was talking about we get in our silos. Now, that's the Secretary General of NATO. I mean, he's Dutch, but he represents on some level, you know, the general position of the NATO alliance, to the extent that, you know, he's running the show and he's saying, yeah, we were slackers, and Trump came in and said we weren't paying enough, and he was right. And you see that moment in this bizarre way, because Trump, in his thuggish, boorish, gangster way, is coming in to try to take over a NATO country. It's odd that the head of NATO would say anything to praise this guy, but that's what's coexisting with the other stuff on stage, which almost exclusively is, we need to figure out how to handle the Americans because they're out of their minds.
Well, that's what I was struck by, Mark, was they're talking, these European leaders are talking about life and a world order without us, without America.
That's right. That's
huge.
Yeah. And yet what he's saying, and even the Finn was saying, you know, there's an interlocking nature to the way in which these agreements have been structured and to the way they've been executed. So militarily and even culturally, we have created a relationship with the Americans that is sort of not going to be easy to completely extricate ourselves from. We're going to have to take baby steps. I mean, a lot of that's implied, but a lot of that is kind of stated. So I want to bring on John, so I won't delay too much more, but I did want you to hear a good chunk of that just to get a sense of what both Trump is talking about and those at Davos are talking about. And now America will have a smaller seat at the table from now on, says Great Warrior Gaming. Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I think they're very much examining a world in which America is a threat, as opposed to, and this is what Carney was talking about, the hegemonic threat. That is America. You know, it's not China, it's not Russia, it's America now. But he's saying this is the point, that's why I started with Carney. He's saying we've been sleepwalking through this for too long. We've understood that America kind of lets themselves play by other rules. It's okay. We have strong trade agreements. They have a good economy. Militarily, they've been essentially protectors of our interests in Europe. Now things may be changing. So.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Smash that like button for me. I appreciate it. We are huge fans of all of you who subscribe to the show. Please do subscribe. Hit the notification bell. We've got a couple of special videos dropping on the weekend. You'll know about those if you hit the notification bell. Yeah, smash it with your iron rod.
Smash it with your iron rod.
How about a smash for my newly darkened hair? I just had my hair darkened, and I'm wearing my credibility glasses that match my darkened hair. It's really... Well, I'm just saying.
I've never seen anything like it.
It's pretty powerful. You can also be part of our Patreon and PayPal community. They're really the people who keep the show on the air. We run their names at the end of every show. Find Patreon and PayPal links under all videos, this video and all others. Also at themarkthompsonshow.com. Find Patreon and PayPal there. Click through and be part of our community. And lastly, our coffee, which is delicious. It is Coachella Valley coffee. I'm drinking it out of my Born to Peacefully Protest mug, which is available at getmarkmerch.com. And I actually happen to be wearing the Born to Peacefully Protest shirt today. You can see, yeah, very, very coincidental, but there you go. Coachella Valley coffee, though, you can get it. Get whatever you want, coffee, tea, spices. It's delicioso. The best coffee on earth. The tea is magnifico. Courtney drinks the tea. Kim drinks the tea. I drink the tea. And you can find that as well. Tea, coffee, and merch. You get 10% off everything. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. 10% off with Mark T. Use that discount code at checkout. Mark T. Gets you 10% off.
Put that coffee down.
He seems to conveniently forget that NATO responded to the 9/11 attack. This is such a good point that Steve Ward is making. Thank you, Steve Ward.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to you for a $20 super chat. Trump seems to conveniently forget that NATO responded to the 9/11 attack on the U.S. and lost many soldiers. That is absolutely right. Steve, with the reminder that Trump needs, they lost hundreds of people. They went into Afghanistan with us. I'm telling you, this guy, no sense of history, even recent history. That's a great point. Thank you, Steve, and thank you for the super chat. All right. Speaking of history, let me bring this next guy out.
The Mark Thompson Show.
He's a historian, really focused for so long on presidential history. There's a president now in America rewriting the books of presidential history for future generations. He's also a lecturer, author, our former colleague at KGO Radio, John Rothman, everybody. John, you saw the president speak, and you saw the other European leaders speak in Davos. Thoughts?
Horrified. Horrified by Donald Trump. Not just what he did today, but what he did yesterday. And if you listened carefully to the rambling 2-hour discourse, you understand how bad it is. Let me ask you a question. Do you know the difference between Greenland and Iceland?
Apparently
Donald Trump couldn't even keep that straight. But let me be very clear about this.
Just to be clear, he started with Greenland, then he mentioned it was a big block of ice, and once he had ice in that, whatever drug-addled or age-addled head of his, he then began, or dementia-addled head, he then started referring to Iceland and talking about the fact that he wanted Iceland. That's what you're talking about, for those who missed it.
Yeah, and I was horrified. But let me just tell you, there is nothing normal about Donald Trump. And we can call him all the names we want, but I was with a group of people this morning in my exercise class who are relatively conservative. They're horrified. Horrified. And I think that's the key. So the question becomes, what are the restraining factors that we have? The first thing is the Supreme Court, which it appears, based on what happened this morning, will not permit the president to remove a member of the Fed.
That's right.
Second is the question.
That was the new ruling today, the latest.
It's not a ruling. They haven't issued a ruling. They've only had a preliminary discussion. But when you have conservative justices raising doubts about it, it gives us an indication.
Okay.
Second thing is tariffs. Hopefully, by the time you and I are together next Wednesday, the Supreme Court will have issued its ruling on tariffs. I believe that the Supreme Court will strike down Donald Trump's ability to impose tariffs. He will then have a terrible problem because all of the retaliation and retribution that he is wreaking will be stopped cold, unless, and I point this out, if it were perchance a divided decision, he could defy that decision, and his staff has indicated he just might do that. I was horrified by his mix-up of history. But here's the key. I had a listener of your program who emailed me and asked me, does the 25th Amendment apply? So I pulled out my Constitution, which I carry with me. It's a pocket Constitution, because it seems to me it is worth remembering. And I want to just share this with you. How does the 25th Amendment work? If the vice president and the majority of the president's cabinet submit...
Well, you can stop right there. That's the problem with it.
But oh, really? You mean you were going to stop me before I was able to say it? Oh, it is your program. It's okay.
But John, and I don't mean to stop you, but the 25th Amendment just talked about, and reasonably talked about, because he's so clearly addled by I don't know what, and he's truly gone mad. But the reality is he's surrounded by supplicants and sycophants, those who are enabling him. There's not going to be any kind of...
You're exactly right.
There's not going to be any kind of crew that is going to vote and coalesce behind the idea of removing him.
Let me remind everybody, the 25th Amendment was designed not for a mad president. It was designed for a president who is crippled by a stroke or made unable to function. So the 25th Amendment does not apply in this case. Question then becomes impeachment. And I want to be clear that unless the Republican leadership in the House and Senate defect from Donald Trump, unless they are able to call out what is happening with Donald Trump, there is no restraint on the power of a president. That's why what the Supreme Court does is going to be so critical. I also want to point something else out. I know you have a long agenda today. What's happening in Minnesota? The fact that now the Justice Department is being used to attack political enemies is enough reason to remove Donald Trump as president. It is a complete violation of the separation of powers. And
I wonder if you can just put some specifics on that. So, because the Justice Department is now going after
the mayor
those
of
officials.
Minneapolis,
Thank you.
The mayor of St. Paul, the governor of the state. This is the greatest abuse of power by a president of the United States that I can remember historically. Now, here's the problem, Mark, and you and I have debated this, and I'm not going to admit you're right, although it appears to this point you are, and that is that everything that we are trying to accomplish, Donald Trump seems to have all the cards. As long as he has a Republican majority that is loyal to him. Remember, Nixon was toppled by a Republican minority. They were not the majority, who sided with the majority. So my hope, two things. One, that in the next week, the Supreme Court will strike down his ability to remove somebody from the Fed. Number two, that they will deny his right to use tariffs. And by the way, if you heard the president yesterday and today, in both occasions, he said, I'll get around it. I'll find a way, which is, again, a defiance of constitutional order. The question of the Republicans in the House and Senate, the only thing that's going to move these people is if the polls continue to demonstrate the Republicans are going to lose and lose big. And maybe then there's a chance. But you know what bothers me the most? I'm a student of the American presidency. I've taught courses on the American presidency. You want to ask me questions about any president of the United States and what they did in their term, I'm happy to respond with some ability to understand and explain. There is no explanation or justification for Donald Trump. I have publicly called now for the fact that he must be removed. Now, here's my problem. His vice president is a man who is equally, in my judgment, flawed and difficult. He has called for America to be a Christian nation. He has supported Donald Trump repeatedly. And therefore, when I think of J.D. Vance as president of the United States, I am profoundly worried. We are in a crisis. It has a crisis of leadership, a crisis of balance of powers, and it is unprecedented in the history of our country. So I don't want anybody listening to me. And look, Mark, most of the people who listen to you and listen to me, they've heard me for almost 30 years on KGO. They know that I'm not irrational, that I'm not irresponsible, that I try very much to be as centrist and logical as I can.
Well, I think you're an institutionalist. That's one of the things I don't like about you.
Thank you. And I don't like the fact you dyed your hair. I mean, look at mine. Can't you do what I do?
I've gone with this as day one of my dialogue. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me be clear. There is no way to change the style of Donald Trump. He is what he is, and he is a danger to American democracy. He is a danger to the world order. He is a danger to Europe. He is a danger to all of us. And I don't say that lightly. Now, Mark.
So wait a minute, because you touch on Europe, and I want to touch on our poll. We have a flash poll up now on this.
On Mark Thompson Show. Flash poll.
And if you look at the flash poll, John, it really touches on that which you've touched on. How should Europe handle Trump's demands? Ignore the yes or no, folks who are voting. Sorry about that. Stand firm, no concessions, or negotiate to avoid conflict. I mean, that's essentially where the Europeans are. Do you placate this president in some way by feigning negotiation, pretending to negotiate, consider, let's talk, let's have dinner? That's what Macron did, for example. Or do you stand firm? And if you stand firm, what does that look like?
You stand firm. NATO is a functioning organization. The European Union is a functioning organization, although minus Great Britain. But it seems to me that the Europeans have to make a firm statement. We are allied with the United States. We want to have a strong, viable alliance. We are prepared to be your partner and cooperate. But when you're wrong, we are not going to take orders from someone who's president of the United States, who's more like a gangster. And I think that is the key.
Well, most of those responding to the poll agree with you. 87% of those responding, again, sorry about that yes, no, ignore that, those who are voting in the poll. This is in the live chat on YouTube. How should Europe handle Trump's demands? 87%. These are Americans, for the most part, voting in this poll, in our viewers and listeners. 87% say stand firm, no concessions. Only 4% say negotiate to avoid conflict. So the plan and strategy as to how to deal with Donald Trump, Americans, at least through this poll, seem to all be on board and having figured out you got to stand up to a bully like Trump.
Damn right. And let me be clear. What he's doing in Minnesota is an assault on democracy and should be responded to with full vigor. And I don't know if you saw the story about Stars and Stripes. I've been reading Stars and Stripes for years. And here is a president who is now trying to take over Stars and Stripes.
Well, he's going to do it. I mean, it's not just trying. Yeah, he's taken over Stars and Stripes.
And it's appalling. And this is
and for those who don't know, Stars and Stripes, right, John, you can correct me because if you've been reading it for years, but it's
I can correct you?
It can it is a kind of
What?
It's you won't need to because I never need to be corrected. But the fact is, Stars and Stripes, while it operated independent of the military. That is to say, it really was an independent publication, always has been up until this point.
Yep, 100%. And very reliable, by the way, in terms of fair and balanced news.
With incredible connections to the military. So you got some great reporting out of that paper. Yeah.
What this president is doing is assaulting our media as well. You and I have talked about the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. We have speculated what would have happened if you and I and our colleagues had still been on KGO. What happened at KCBS might well have happened to us. And let me tell you something. I would have gone down fighting, and you would have gone down fighting. for the idea of freedom of the press and freedom of expression.
So, John, now ICE, because you've mentioned them a couple of times and mentioned the move in Minnesota, and I think appropriately point to the way in which this regime is now going after politicians who are connected to the state and offering any resistance at all, governor, mayor, etc. Now they're going to Philadelphia. The ICE plans are ramping up in Philadelphia. And this is potentially, anyway, a place where they may encounter even more vigorous resistance. I mean, you know, Minnesotans are historically sort of lovely. They have almost a Canadian vibe to them, you know what I mean? They have fight in them, but they don't bring the fight initially. I think those in Philadelphia sort of are a bit more prone to offer resistance to
and that's where
being pushed around by
Hall.
ICE.
That's where Independence Hall is. Can you imagine an assault on American independence by the President of the United States? What better place to resist than Philadelphia? And remember the old statement, we've used it before, you and I, the woman who asked Dr. Franklin on the steps of Constitutional Hall, have you given us a republic or a monarchy? And what was Franklin's response? A republic, madam, if you can keep it. We are struggling to keep that republic. And I don't want to be overdramatic. And I know that many of your listeners expect from me a rational approach, as you say, balanced, clear. There is no rationale for Donald Trump. What he is doing is tremendously horrific. Will we recover? You bet. There will be a president of the United States who will stand up and say, this part of our history we need to learn from. I just read a book about January 6th, assault on the Capitol. And it was put out by Public Affairs Press. And it's eyewitness accounts, point by point by point. It is a scathing indictment of Donald Trump. But you understand, we can indict him as we are on innumerable points. And I remember when my old friend Bob Drinan, former congressman, Roman Catholic priest, after the Nixon thing began to blow up, was the first member of Congress to put into the hopper a move to impeach Richard Nixon. We need to have a bipartisan group of Democrats and Republicans who will submit articles, well-researched, well-backed, explaining why Donald Trump should be removed from office. If nothing else, it will be a vindication in the eyes of history of an otherwise passive Congress. And I say Democrats and Republicans together.
You know, Democrats and Republicans together really can't agree to salute the flag. I mean, it's an amazing thing now, the hyper-partisan nature of politics in America. But on this issue, I don't know, John. There've been it's demonstrably the case, as you've said. I mean, this is a manifestly corrupt guy, Trump. I mean, the Washington Post or New York Times, I forget which.
Did you see the New York Times story?
They laid out $1.5 million. I think it's the New York Times, $1.5 million that Trump has already moneyed himself with. By that figure,
you said $1 million.
A billion. Sorry, $1 billion. Thank you. Sorry. That Trump has. I think that figure is low because the crypto pipeline has produced billions of dollars in payoffs to this man and the Trump family. And it is early on that we learned of it. The Qatari jet, these are all, the emolument clause alone
has no meaning under Trump.
Thank you. So when it comes to the Democrats, I look at their vote on ICE, and I think they're disappointing. You talk about the Democrats, and I don't want people to kind of look the other way on the fact that the Democrats have let down the process also. When it comes to ICE funding, Democrats have come over in substantial enough numbers to vote for that supercharged ICE budget. It's twice the budget of the FBI. Explain to me how Democrats aren't talking more vigorously about pulling back funds from ICE because of the wanton abuse that they are demonstrating.
I agree with you. But I have to point something out. Those who call for the abolition of ICE, no, it's not the abolition of ICE. It's like cutting off your nose to spite your face. It is understanding that the leadership of this administration are empowering ICE to do things that are beyond the Constitution. Indeed, what did Donald Trump suggest? Absolute immunity for people working for ICE. This is horrific. And let me assure you, there will at one point be a rational response. The American people will understand. I hope that this long national nightmare is slowly ending, because the American people, in their righteous indignation, will rise up and just say no. I mean,
well,
this is, I hope.
His poll numbers are flagging. I mean, it's fair to say that, he talks about the fact that everything's gotten more affordable, interest rates are down, you can buy a house now in America. You couldn't when I took over, when sleepy Joe Biden was there. He talks about how prices at the gas pump, at the grocery store. Well, the reality is that that's a fiction. In fact, just because of his Greenland comments, what's happened to interest rates? They've gone up. And
look at the market. Look at how the market plunged yesterday.
And those are equities. The bond market is what you should look at, because the bond market is where people are buying faith in America, if you want to think of it that way. So the long-term bond market, you have to look at that. And those prices, bond market prices, are going up. That's because it's going to take a bigger payout, if you want to think of it that way, for people to invest in America because of the political cataclysmic set of events that has affected this country.
Yeah, look, Mark, you and I agree. The real question our listeners have to tackle, we have to tackle, is what we do about it. I'm going to watch the Supreme Court, because what they do on these two major decisions, one with the Fed and the other with tariffs, will be the most important singular decisions this court will make during its term. Second thing I look for are the Republicans in Congress. I'm not talking about the Democrats. Democrats don't have the votes. It is Republicans standing up and saying, we agree with much of what Donald Trump has done substantively, but we disagree with who he is and what he represents. Until that happens, until there is that kind of rebuke, you and I will be on this perpetual discussion each week. And that's what really...
I'll buy that. I think you're right. That is what to watch for. Great Dane says, EU holds $9 trillion in U.S. treasuries. This is what I'm talking about. The pushback that the European community has potentially is very much associated with the U.S. economy. And I'm telling you, those U.S. treasuries, those bondholders, they have a lot of power. And Trump has to watch out. He is just a gangster who thinks that, he's got the biggest battleships and can get away with whatever. That ain't true.
He has to be stopped, and the only way to stop him is with the midterm elections. They have to lose and lose and lose.
Find Rothman. That's if they honor those results. That's for another day. We'll talk about that.
Tell you, remember Donald Trump joked about no need for elections? The White House immediately pulled back on that. There was only one time in American history where elections were seriously considered in terms of suspending. That was in 1942, when America went to war. And Democratic and Republican leaders, Sam Rayburn for the Democrats, Joe Martin for the Republicans, said absolutely not. America is a democracy. We may have flaws, but we are going to hold elections. And I want to encourage everyone, if you're not registered, go out and register.
Of course, yeah. But what I would say to you, John, and just remind you, I think most people who are regulars on this show know, I've used this point before, but I'll use it again. Russia has elections, okay? Elections in and of themselves are only valuable if the results are honored or if the results aren't manipulated. You've seen it happen. He's talking at Davos today about the fact that the 2020 election was stolen from him. Okay, this is a guy who's not giving up, and this is a crew. But let me say, because you're going to say, well, Donald Trump is not going to be around for the general election. Maybe he will, maybe he won't be. But I would say this is a crew, the GOP particularly, that realizes the richness. This is like a pot of gold to them. The reality that you can just deny the results, and in so doing, retain power. So I'm quite concerned about that.
Don't forget, Minnesota voted 3 times for Donald Trump. And
that's right. He said that in Davos, too. That's right. But he was just denied the election. All right, I've got to run. John Rothman can be found
I'm just having fun. I'm just warming up.
On his podcast, Around the Political World with John Rothman. We love him. He makes me smile. He knows a lot of stuff, and he will make you. TheVoiceSF.org is the other place you can find John Rothman. The Voice of San Francisco.
Course, every Wednesday on the Mark Thompson program. Please support the Mark Thompson program. I want to make sure he has the ability to continue to maintain his follicle excellence.
Well, I have to dye it now. She's told me I have to dye the hair now. I have a standing 3-week appointment with her.
Who is her?
She's the colorist, the hair colorist.
What is your beloved
And
say?
she says, Mark, don't you think we should let a little gray go in just to kind of give you, there's no reason. Let's have a little gray. And I said, I never want to hear you say that again.
Just so long as it's not orange. Just so long as it's not orange.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. I'll do my best. Thank you, John Rothman. You're awesome.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
Gotta love it. Got to love it. Yeah. Thank you, everybody who's joined us from across the world, from across the neighborhoods. Smash the like button if you would.
With your iron rod.
Share the show, share conversations. I really liked the first half hour. We played you some videos. There's some more videos to come, but I played you some video from Davos. There was a 2-hour meandering, crazy press conference last night that Trump had. I've kind of spared you that so far. Maybe I'll play you some of that as well. But it was madness.
So one of the things that people are looking at, and I was reading this article about the cardiologist that treated Dick Cheney, saying there's something truly wrong with Trump. That the speech yesterday and the speech today really are highlighting some type of cognitive issue.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you don't need to be a cardiologist to figure that out. I mean, he's definitely suffering in some way. Suffering. Well, I don't know how much he's suffering literally, but we're suffering through whatever he's dealing with. I want to share something with you, and that's
The Mark Thompson Show.
I want to bring in my darling Courtney. She is the love of my life. I trust her with everything, and she is someone who I brought in to help me road test a product that wanted to come onto the show. And for the last month, we've been road testing this brilliant product. It really does work. It's called Zellman's, and it's Zellman's Minty Mouth. I have it right here. Now I have it in my pocket all the time.
Yeah. You trust me with your breath. And that is
Minty Mouth. There you can see it. Zellman's Minty Mouth.
And that is Zellman's. Yeah. Mark and I were on a date last night.
Ooh.
And yeah.
Where'd you go?
Yeah.
What'd you do?
We went to this new restaurant. Well, new to us.
Yeah, it's right down, not too far from us. But we wanted to. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say it's less about the restaurant.
No, it's
and more about there's onions there and stuff that would affect your breath.
Yeah.
But we have been using Zellman's, and Courtney's got like these big meetings with like big people, and I have just regular old people that I'm seeing. But Zellman's Minty Mouth.
It's great. I actually use them before a virtual meeting because I'm so accustomed to going to them before I meet with people that I found myself reaching for them before I started this Teams call. I mean, it's that much integrated now into our lives. And like, as I mentioned before, I had that med spa appointment and the therapist was like very close to me. And it was so great because right before the appointment, I could take them and I knew very much that I wouldn't be a problem, that I wouldn't like offend her with my breath.
We have people in our audience who are grandparents and they have their grandkids on their knee or they're dealing with the and you have a lifetime of stuff in your stomach that's leading to less than beautiful breath. And these aren't mints, okay? They're mint flavored, but mints just conceal it. This is actually a capsule inside. It's all made from natural stuff. You swallow it, and it interacts with the stuff in your stomach to fight bad breath, completely neutralizing things like onions, garlic. It works. As I say, we've been road testing this for the last month. The stuff's amazing. So I pop like 3 at a time.
Yeah.
And
do you do it once a day or do you do it more than once?
Oh, I do it more than once a day.
I do it more than once. And for Mark, it interacts with martinis. Really helps with that, actually. He can say onions and garlic.
Yeah,
but.
I do. But it's a parsley. Inside is like a parsley oil. They've put together this special preparation. So I want you to check it out.
Yeah.
Go to Zellmans.com and use our discount code MARKT. You'll get 15% off your first order. You check it out. I mean, you road test it. I think you're really going to like it. Zellmans, Zelmins, Zellmans.com. Again, the discount code is MARKT. We appreciate you supporting our sponsors, giving our sponsors a chance. And I think if you give this Zellmans Minty Mouth a chance, you will actually be really pleasantly surprised at how effective it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. Which do you guys like better, the peppermint or the spearmint?
No, I don't really have a. I use the spearmint,
I like
it's
the
kind
spearmint,
of, to be
but I
honest,
think
it's
they're-
not.
Do you have a preference?
I like the peppermint.
Yeah,
Okay,
all
there you
right.
go.
Well, there you
Yeah.
go. Peppermint and spearmint.
Yeah.
It's a photo finish between peppermint and spearmint.
Yeah.
Kim's got a bunch of it.
Mm-hmm.
And because we wanted to kind of share it with everybody so you can get a sense for it. Anyway, Zellmans.com. Discount code is Mark T. Courtney, it was lovely.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, Courtney.
Yeah.
For you to stop by.
I mean, it's nice to be here, and it's nice to support the show in Zellmans. You do this every day, right?
We do the show every day. Yeah, thank you very much. All right, Courtney, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's
Mark
Courtney.
Thompson Show.
That's Courtney, everyone. Yes, indeed. All right, still to come.
By the way, same code to get you 15% off, Mark T. You can use it at Zellmans and Coachella Valley Coffee. It's Mark T, MARKT.
Zellmans.com, Zelmins.com. And as Kim has noted, it's the same discount code you use for Coachella Valley Coffee, Mark T, 15% off your first order. I wanted to get to comments if there are any that I need to attend to.
And now, your comments.
When will Trump start eating grass like Nebuchadnezzar the second? Nullifidian, thank you. Nullifidian sent me some good stuff along the way here in the last week. Artist Fine, or Artist, what is that, Kim? Artist Fine?
Art is Fine.
Art is Fine. Maybe it's Fine. I don't know. I know the art is. Anyway, is that 10 euros?
Yes, or no. Is it euros or is it sterling?
Mm.
Is it pounds? I think it's euros.
Looks like euros to me. Yeah. Thank you. Wow, always very. Send us an email and tell us how to say your name, and we won't screw it up again.
We like the euros because soon the dollar won't be meaningless. So
yeah,
thank
$10
you for the
euros is or 10 euros is substantial. Thank you. By the way, our email address is themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. Steve is saying he seems to conveniently forget that NATO responded to the 9/11 attack on the U.S. and lost many soldiers. I was saying this before. We did read this comment a while ago. It's true. Thank you for the $20 super chat.
Big shout out.
This idea somehow that NATO's never done anything for us, that we've always been there for them, but they're never there for us, that's essentially what Trump is peddling right now. And it's just a fiction. And Steve describes the last time that the NATO alliance, they sprung into action and they lost lives fighting alongside us.
What was it called? Coalition of the Willing?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It was Bush's coalition of the willing. Luis says, so we, in quotes, are all upset that China may take Taiwan, and then we pull Greenland and Canada's 51st state, Gulf of America, acting president of Venezuela, kettle, meat, pot. Yeah.
Big shout out.
Big shout out is right. Thank you, Louise. Thanks for that. One big tuna for you. Thank you for a $5 super sticker. Appreciate that.
That's a great name.
And here's the scary part, says Harry Magnum with a $5 super chat. Trump is losing it and MAGA doesn't care. John, please outline how to use the 25th Amendment. We talked about that. And I told you why the 25th Amendment doesn't make any sense in this instance. The 25th Amendment, as John said, is really designed if the president's incapacitated in some way, that's, again, felled by stroke or disease or whatever. You're just never going to get, you can't get the votes to remove him now. You can't get the votes. That's why impeachment, while important, perhaps as a process, would not lead to the removal of this president in America right now. The Norwegian Nobel Committee should change the name of the Nobel Prize to the Barack Obama Peace Prize. And then Trump wouldn't want one, says one big tuna for you. Yeah, I think
big shout out.
That is super clever. Yeah. The Nobel thing is so crazy. So, he's ranting in the middle of the night through his social media post that the reason he's attacking Greenland is because the Nobel Committee in Norway didn't vote to give him the Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Committee, of course, is a committee. It's not the country of Norway voting on who gets the Nobel Peace Prize. Plus, the country of Norway has nothing to do with Greenland. So you taking over Greenland because you're all butthurt about the fact that you didn't get a Nobel Peace Prize, that doesn't even track rationally. Would you make a donation to see Mark doing dishes? Asks Richard.
What?
I am.
Who is having that conversation?
Well, let's start it. I love doing dishes, actually. I don't love doing dishes, but I'm very good at it. I'll say that. No one likes doing dishes, I don't think. Cranky Charcoal says, Sterling looks like this.
Thank you, Cranky.
Thank you, Cranky Charcoal, and I'll give you the...
Thank you so much.
Yes, from another Brit. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
5 British sterling. 5 quid, that would be, yeah?
So the sterling looks more like an L with a line through it.
Yes.
And the euro looks more like an E with a line through it.
Yes, and both are welcome here.
Okay.
Thank you.
All are welcome here.
Super sticker from Wes. Thank you for a $5 super sticker.
Thanks,
Wes
Wes.
in FLA, baby, Florida.
Is it wrong that the fact that you're so good at doing dishes makes you more attractive?
It's odd, maybe. I don't know.
Oh no!
I
All
don't
the
have
ladies
a problem
know
with doing
exactly
dishes.
what I'm saying.
I've grew up in a family. There were 4 kids. I just did dishes. I didn't mind it. I used to, as a dinner guest, insist on doing the dishes for whomever, but I think that was too much. That wasn't a good chapter of my. Now I wouldn't do that. It's just not what you do. But we used to insist on it, and some people who I would do that with would say, "Oh my God, that was just the greatest thing when you came in and you actually did the dishes." That was but it's just not. It's not necessarily the most appropriate thing always.
It isn't. I was raised that when the dinner is over, that you always offer to help. But I've had people say that's just not done. So I don't know.
I have some breaking news out of Davos, and I want to share it with you. So let me do that.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Trump is now, and this goes with a bit of the poll that is up. And again, if you're voting in the poll in our live chat, ignore the yes and no. And you can just, essentially the question is, should Europe hold the line with Trump, or should they in some way navigate and negotiate a way to kind of talk Trump off the ledge? I think that's appeasement of a sort. But Trump is a very volatile, dangerous character who doesn't really understand anything from the NATO alliance to history. I'm not in any way convinced that he's not in some way in league with the Russians, or certainly has interests. I know Witkoff and his family have interests with the Russians, as does the Trump family. I mean, I'm talking about financial interests. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. Oligarchs have to oligarch, right? And they flock together. So now Trump is talking about a framework in this Greenland deal, reversing the tariff threats that he'd announced. This is bizarre, I think maybe informed by how crazy the markets were reacting, how there was this unified pushback essentially by those at Davos. Trump has made this announcement. This just happened minutes ago, that he'd reached the framework of a deal on Greenland with the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, and that he would not impose the tariffs that he had threatened against Europe. He made this announcement on his social media account, and this is, against the backdrop of his declaration on the same media account that he was going to seize Greenland from Denmark. I mean, it's kind of weird. Remember he said over and over, there is no negotiating on this. We will, take this over. I mean, one way or another, he said. Mm-hmm. So he said this on his social media account, quote, "We have formed the framework of a future deal with respect to Greenland and, in fact, the entire Arctic region. This solution, if consummated, will be a great one for the United States of America and all NATO nations." Trump wrote on Truth Social also that the proposed Golden Dome missile defense system was subject to further discussions, quote, as it pertains to Greenland. He also added that, quote, "further information will be made available as discussions progress." And Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Envoy Steve Witkoff will, quote, "be responsible for the negotiations." That's his way of saying, there's more to come.
Yeah.
This is, you know what he said to this packed room at Davos. He said, "We want a piece of ice for world protection, and they won't give it to us. We've never asked for anything else." I played you that. They have a choice. You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no, and we will remember, is what he said. Now, what is clearly the essential element in a Trump presidency, which is coercion, and coercion using the U.S. military, he's now backing off that, saying, all right, we're navigating a negotiated deal on Greenland. So that's the Greenland part of the story in America, and that's breaking news out of Davos now. I wanted to get back to ICE because I think what's happening in this country is alarming in the extreme. So let me quickly do that.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I wanted to ask you, Kim, if you could rally maybe a couple of these videos pertaining to ICE. Mm-hmm. It almost doesn't matter which one you get going, so I would say, because I know we're down Tony today, so I know it's a little hard sometimes to rally something. Just tell me what you're putting up, and I can speak to it. But I think what's happening in American cities and the terrorizing of many communities around America right now with these thuggish ICE agents who are really just goons who go in, go door to door, pull people out of their cars, out of their houses, out of their work. They pull them out of scheduled judicial hearings. There was a swearing-in ceremony for those who have gone through the long legal process. It's an excruciatingly slow process whereby they legally apply for legal residency or U.S. citizenship here. There's a swearing-in ceremony. ICE agents showed up at one of those ceremonies and arrested and detained all of those people. That's where we are. Here is this guy who is a U.S. citizen. They wake him up. You've probably seen this. It's kind of had a virality. They wake him up and they pull him out of his house in his underwear. Go ahead. Let me just hear a little bit of it, Kim, please. Because he speaks on this.
For me to come out here without my clothes on, and then they just handcuffed me right there. My grandson watched everything. After they took me, he was crying, looking for me. They drove me all the way to Minneapolis. I don't know where. My son grabbed my ID, showing to them. They just said, okay, you're good. So they free me. And they didn't say anything. They didn't say sorry or anything. They just, okay, you're good. They just left.
Yeah, there you go. This is domestic terrorism, Phineas says, and Phineas is right. This is domestic terrorism.
Here's the
shaking
guy
down your own people.
He's Hmong, and he's a grandpa, and it's in Minnesota, and it's freezing, and they pull him out in his, his underwear with a blanket on his shoulders. I mean, that's just gross. Why would they do that to people?
And that's not all. We have other videos too, whatever you can rally. So some of them, well, you'll tell me what you have and I'll speak to it. But some of them, I think that we have on deck for you are related to public officials who are connected to ICE, either in terms of looking at detention centers or actually administering to ICE itself. What do you have next for me?
I have, I think, from Really American, I'm going to play for you this word that there's some kind of ICE quota.
Yeah, they are. We talked about this yesterday, but I love that you're running it because there, as I've mentioned, not only is there an ICE quota, but the quota pertains to those who are taken in and detained. Even if they're released, you get the credit for having brought somebody in. That's why they are just dragnetting everybody and just pulling them in. Even if they're released, you get credit for having detained someone. Go ahead.
Brian, 82% of people saw that video. 53% think that he should be criminally charged for it. And then the Wall Street Journal comes out and they're reporting that there are incentives for ICE agents because they need to meet that insane 3,000 people a day quota, that they're getting rewarded even if they bring in people who then get released. These stories of Americans being detained saying, show me your papers. There was a veteran, U.S. veteran, who's on a Carnival cruise,
being arrested and
a U.S. veteran on a Carnival cruise with his wife, who was taken out of his cabin, someone who served this country.
What is the percentage?
No
U.S.
citizen.
percentage.
Do
I know
not
math is
act
hard.
like ICE isn't making, I don't even know how many mistakes a day in pursuit of Stephen Miller's 3,000 a day quota and getting paid
Let's
for
give
it.
Greg a chance.
Yeah, that restates it. But I love that example. We had told you about that when it happened. The cruise ship visitor. We think that the cruise ship visitor was, as I recall, just detained because his last name was Gonzalez or something. He had a Hispanic last name. So they went into his cruise ship cabin and pulled him off his vacation. He's a U.S. citizen and a veteran. Like, my bad, I'm sorry. Just grabbing everybody I can with Z at the end of their name. What else do you have for me, Kim?
I have this story that I'm working on bringing up for you, and it is about Trump's ICE force sweeping America. And I think this looks very similar. I don't think it's a video. My bad. I don't know. Let me look at, how about Joy Reid?
Let me suggest something to you.
Yeah.
If you just go down in the rundown a few, you'll see Tom Homan. You'll see Robert. You'll see the Chris Murphy. I love the Chris Murphy. Do you want me to? I think I can run the Chris Murphy.
I can do it. I can do it. I got it.
Yeah. Chris Murphy is heroic, might overstate it, but he's really one of the shining lights of what's happening in America right now. And he has now gone to a detention center with 24 hours notice. Now that you understand, the court has upheld the demand that it should be that any congressperson, any senator can go to any one of these detention centers or any prison in America without having to announce themselves ahead of time, okay? But the ICE policy is, the Department of Homeland Security policy is now, we need 7 days notice before you can come onto the premises. That's insane. But in this case, Murphy gave them a full day, and still he was turned away. So here he is talking about that.
To the detention facility
I was
here in
denied,
Dilley.
yeah.
There are 1,200 people. Inside, there are 400 children. The majority of them are under 5 years old. I gave them 24 hours notice that I was coming, so I didn't show up unannounced, and they still denied me entry. That is unacceptable. That is patently illegal. They made a ridiculous claim that every single facility in the area is funded only by the Big Beautiful Bill, which is just not true. But even if it were, it doesn't matter. Members of Congress have a constitutional right to inspect these facilities and have a clear statutory right as well. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to go to another facility down the road. I'm sure the same thing will happen. But this is astonishing, and it tells you that these guys have something to hide. If they are not letting members of Congress in with less than 7 days notice, it tells you how much work they know they need to do to cover up and hide the things they don't want us to see. So you get to see the videos of what's happening in Minneapolis. You don't get to see anything that's happening behind these walls. And the fact that they denied me access, even with 24 hours notice, should make everybody deeply, deeply fearful of what is happening inside this facility and facilities like it.
That's great. Chris Murphy is just wonderful that way. And meanwhile, ICE is being challenged, and these detentions are being challenged. Let me see in the Highwire Act that is sharing video. Let me see if I can get it for you. I am, we're without Tony today. No Tony, no Albert. So I just wanted to try to get for you this piece of video, and it is.
I have this one. This man's name is Robert Held.
That's exactly what I wanted. So go for it.
well, look
Okay,
at
I was trying to get it.
Very shortly.
This is a stop.
I'm on my way.
Go to the beginning. This is
Federal court.
a lawyer who is there, who is pursuing one of these cases, defending one of these detainees in a court today. Go ahead.
I don't know if I can go to the beginning because it's one of these circular kind of situations.
To watch Judge Sarah Ellis preside over the preliminary injunction hearing in the journalist lawsuit against ICE. Judge Ellis has already ruled that certain tactics and weapons used by ICE are impermissible, and there's video evidence that ICE has ignored the judge's ruling. We're going to see live testimony and likely a cross-examination of Gregory Bovino. I'm going to break it down and give you that update just as soon as we break for lunch.
That's great. And Bovino is a despicable guy who seems to idolize the tactics of the SS, the intimidation tactics associated with Nazi SS soldiers, and also the outfit that Nazi SS soldiers wore. Can you call up for me, Kim, Bovino? And there's video, I sent it to Tony, but I know Tony's not with us, of him walking through, I believe it was Minneapolis, as he's flanked by his people. You may or may not be able to find this actual piece of video, but even the picture of Bovino wearing the garb that is, I'll just say it's styled in the manner of the SS guard, and all of those who wore that SS costume. And Bovino is, walking through these municipalities and saying, back off the street. He's sort of barking orders to everybody as he's flanked on either side by his people. It's, again, thank you. It's the SS trench coat. Exactly, Tammy. Thank you. I meant to show it to you the other day, but we ran out of time. Bovino is truly an awful guy. Tom Homan, he doesn't wear the outfit. Tom Homan is corrupt. Tom Homan, who is another guy who is wielding all this power over innocent Americans. Tom Homan took a bribe. He took $50,000 in cash in an FBI sting. And the only reason that he was, I'll say the only reason, it's possible that this administration would have looked the other way on it, but he was not subjected to an FBI background check is because Donald Trump and the Trump regime, they didn't submit Homan for any kind of FBI background check. So the sting that he actually fell into, where he takes $50,000 in return for trying to line up contracts for various connections with contractors. This is the new administration coming in. It was 3 days before Trump was inaugurated. He was appointed. You begin to realize that, so this whole FBI sting was way on, but there was no effort to reveal the sting to anyone, and no FBI background check, even a routine one, because Trump never submitted his name. So that's the reason that Tom Homan walks. Tom Homan lives in this administration, and there's been really little follow-up on this $50,000. It was a story in the early days. Now it's kind of just faded into the background with all the other stuff as Trump begins to take over the world. What else do you have, Kim?
I was looking for the Bovino Nazi coat, and I don't know if was this what you mean? Here's what I found.
I wouldn't sweat it at this point, although that is exactly.
Is that what you're looking for?
Yep, that's exactly what I wanted. Thank you.
Yeah, they
That's it.
compare him to the,
Yeah.
Nazis of the past, and that's what I guess.
I mean,
do you think he was going for that look? Was
I don't
that
know.
what he was
I mean,
trying
that's
to
what I was
do?
going to say. I mean, I don't know if that's what he wanted or not, but everything about this guy is, sort of in that it's chilling because this is the overt styling of the Third Reich.
Well, and the messages, we saw it with the Department of Labor and the Department of Homeland Security on the podium. Like, what are you guys thinking? I don't know.
Yeah. If you missed it, you should check out the first hour. I gave you a little bit of about Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney talking about a U.S.-led world order and how that is changing, and the very real fact, and this is really, I think, on Europe on some level, that the Europeans and the post-World War II alliances were just kind of okay with the fact that it was a U.S.-centric world and that there was a dominance that generally reflected European values, and for that reason, the Europeans let the U.S. get away with. He didn't say he said hegemonic powers, but he meant the U.S. The dominant power in the NATO alliance and the dominant power in the West is the United States, and how the Europeans were of the view that we were okay for many years with the U.S. doing what it wanted because it essentially reflected our values. That's all changed now. And it's changed radically, and it's changed quickly. And Carney is sending the clarion call. And remember, we're just 1 year post-Trump inauguration. We have 3 more years of this stuff, and it's going to get chilly real fast, I think. So let me get some news from the environment, news about the environment. We do a segment on this show every week about the environment. We talk to an eco-journalist, and she leads us through some of the stories that are affecting the environment and the earth. I'm stalling right now, which is why I'm speaking so slowly, because I wanted to make sure that Kim has the open. All right.
I'm with you. Okay, ready for
this is It's the Planet, stupid.
That's it for this edition. Well, I really enjoyed it. But make sure to join us again next time.
I think you might want to listen. There's nothing
That's the
wrong
wrong
with
one,
listening.
Kim.
For another chunk of Trump.
Yeah, that's the planet Earth.
Some call me nature.
I am very passionate about the planet Earth.
A living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Spock, judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived.
It's the planet, stupid. No. It's the planet, stupid.
Here he is, our eco-journalist who leads us through It's the Planet, stupid. She's Belinda Weymouth. Hi, Belinda.
Hi, how are you?
What is happening? Tell me something, and tell me something good.
Okay. Well, it's actually good that Kim gave both the intro music, because some of the stuff I'm going to talk about is about Mr. Trump. But I'm also, I really want to leave time to tell you guys the good news story about the flying foxes who got saved by really good human intervention down there in Australia. But let's start off with what happened last week here in the courts. And I think this is, it really leads on to what we were talking about last week, that it's in the courts where a lot of the things that he's trying to do, his administration, Trump's administration, all these environmental protections and things, they're going to get held up in the courts because it's going to be a legal battle. And also he's trying to dismantle things without actually, never ever using due process. He just comes out with an announcement, we're getting rid of this, we're getting rid of that. And in December, which is still only last month, we're still in January, right?
Right.
It's like, I feel like everything seems to be on warp speed, the speed at which the world I know is changing. But last month, Trump, as we know, has this thing about offshore wind. And we know it goes back to 14 years ago, the Scottish wanting to put some wind turbines offshore, and he thought it was going to be seen from his golf course. And he had a hissy fit. And that hissy fit has not stopped. It just goes on and on and on. And it's, idiotic. But anyway, so the first day in office, there's not going to be one wind turbine, installed while I'm in office. Well, there were already these projects underway. And what he did, first of all, was he said, no more permits. And then in December, he's already gone after some of these 5 projects that he, in December, said these are all going to stop. And one of them, he did stop it last year. It restarted. And then last week again, he got ruled against by a judge. And what one of the judges said last year is, this is arbitrary and capricious, what he's doing. It's not based on there is no national security risk posed by these wind turbines. This is an absolutely fallacious thing to sort of say this is, what it is. It's a fallacy. It's not true. And when his interior departments say these things, they can't back it up. They can't give any actual conclusive concrete data to show that wind turbines do pose a national security risk. And they also will not sit down with representatives of these companies, these wind turbine companies, offshore wind turbine. He got 3 of these last week. He got one on Monday, then another judge on Thursday, another judge on Friday. And the crazy thing about these projects that he's going after, they're near completion. Billions of dollars have been spent. Thousands of people are working on them. And what he did in December by saying we're going to halt these 5 projects that are, near completion, and some of them, they're weeks away. One of them is already putting electricity into the grid. Thousands of people lost their jobs 3 days before Christmas. I mean, this is not. I don't think smart politics, but it's this, like I said, it's a hissy fit. It's a sort of a misguided, idiotic, very acutely personal fight that he has about wind turbines. So anyway,
yeah, that's certainly true. I mean, he's got this jihad against wind energy, and it's incredible. He mentions it all the time.
Yeah, jihad. That's better than hissy fit. Jihad. Yeah, nicely done. So Revolution Wind, which is the Danish company Ørsted, they already got shut down once in. We'll do the Virginia one. That's Dominion. So Dominion, this is an important one because this is the biggest out of all of them. This is 176 turbines. It's 70% completed. It's going to power 660,000 homes and businesses in Virginia. And the fact that it's almost there, it's insane. They've already spent almost $9 billion. And when he does these stop work, and what happens is, they're just, there's no chance, there's no substantive reason given. There's no, we can sit down and talk about this. There's no legal process, just stop work right away. And then these companies are bleeding money. And what Dominion said is, this shutdown, the December one, was costing them $5 million a day. But now, because this judge said ridiculous, there's no national security risk that you can give me any actual, data or information on. It's going to be supplying energy to the grid within a couple of weeks. Those electrons are going to be moving, and people are going to be getting cheaper and clean energy. And the really crazy thing about this is what energy experts say, renewable energy is within our grasp and, within America's grasp, but he keeps, pushing it further and further away. And I was just thinking about this before the show, he's talking about us taking over Greenland. Meanwhile, we're being overtaken by China as far as renewable energy goes, so we're doing something that is really, really ridiculous on the international stage, and is really going to hurt Americans, because our need for energy as the planet gets colder and hotter, and we have more AI demands on electricity. It's, very, very hungry for electricity, AI and cryptocurrency. We just aren't going to have enough electricity if we don't have these turbines. Those are the turbine poles going out into the ocean. So we had the one for Virginia, and on Monday we had Revolution Wind. They're offshore of Rhode Island and Connecticut. They're 87% complete. So what these judges are saying is, this is sort of an existential threat to Rhode Island and Connecticut. They're about to have this clean energy. Thousands of people have jobs. The vetting process that has happened, you don't just sort of get given an offshore wind turbine permit for your project. That doesn't happen like, these.
Sure. It's not like getting a warrant where you can just call it into a judge. There's a process to get it.
Oh, yes, you have to go through all these environmental reviews that you're not going to harm anything. I mean, Dominion, the Virginia company, because one of the things the national, they're saying the national security risk, it's our radar systems, it's the Defense Department. Well, Dominion spent $250,000 making the radar infrastructure, the Defense Department's radar infrastructure, stronger in their area, more robust, even though their wind turbines had nothing to do with it. That's what they did to say, hey, is an act of good faith. And, if you make us, we will do this because, we want to put this project. I mean, the hoops that they're jumping through to get these projects, going is crazy. It's just insane. So we had the one off the coast of Virginia that was, almost 70% complete. Now that's going to, be putting energy into the grid within a couple of weeks. We had on Monday, we had the Rhode Island, Connecticut one. They, by the way, got shut down last year in August for a few weeks. They said that shutdown cost them $100 million. And that time, again,
wow.
a judge, yeah. Some of them say, I've heard $5 million a day it costs. I've heard 15 to 50 million a week. These shutdowns can cost the company because, all this investment is happening. The ships that transport those, the enormous wind turbines out into the ocean, they're incredibly specialized. And it's,
they're not just on standby. You have to plan this, and their commitments and their contractors and subcontractors. And now, when there is a cost that's borne by so many of these companies, can they sue the U.S. government for these setbacks? I mean, for the illegal closure and the illegal scuttling of these plants?
I imagine that will be the next legal battle, but right now they just
want to get stuff done.
Yeah, and they're in this sort of tenuous thing. They're saying, we're going to really work with the federal government. We're going to restart construction very carefully. We're going to do this. We're going to that.
They don't want to antagonize them. Yeah.
No, because we know that, yes. So they're sort of really, walking on eggshells at this point to make it happen. And the other thing is, the one that's being restarted off Rhode Island and Connecticut, construction is being restarted because, as the judge says, ridiculous. No, of course there should be, this is jobs. This is energy security. There is no evidence to say that this is harmful to our national security. But, the legal battle will go on in the background because the administration will keep trying to fight it because it's such a, pet peeve. He's got, as you said, such a jihad against it. So,
well, he's got a jihad, and then the way that plays out is those who are trying to ingratiate themselves to them, which is essentially everybody in his administration, they're going, look, Mr. President, just look at what I've done. I've drafted this proposal and this legal document. We're going to be able to close down these wind farms again. Even though they can start, it's a chain, it's a ripple. Try to ingratiate yourself to the king in some way, knowing, as you say, that it's a pet project of his to get rid of all wind farms everywhere. So anything you can do in service of that, you will further ingratiate yourself to the king. It's insanity. But anyway, it's so great that they're up and running. I was truly downcast about the fact that they had come so far, and then he was able to scuttle them so immediately when he got into power.
Yeah, but these ones, the construction continued all of last year. He only shut the one down for a couple of weeks, August, September. And then this December, I'm shutting these 5 down. What happened by January 12th, 15th, and 16th? Judges were saying, no, No, you're not. And they're back at work. And one of them is it's funny with the whole stuff that's been happening with Norway and the Nobel Peace Prize, blah, blah, blah. But their company, Equinor, which is doing 2 wind projects in New York, you've got Empire and another one called Sunrise. They're 60% completed. They've spent $5 billion. But they said, look, we were about to lose $1 billion. And we were about to pull up anchor and ship off, because we'll go back to Europe and we'll put wind farms in there. We don't need, why would we stay and do this? But they had a judge rule in their favor, and so they will continue. And the fact that they're so close, I mean, really, if someone was really Trump's friend, they would sit down and really explain the sort of math to him, because if it was really explained and how, important this is, for our national security, actually. Renewable energy is important for our national security. And
he doesn't get it. I don't think he'd even take a meeting on it. He doesn't want to hear it.
No.
He has a 1955 orientation toward the world. He really does. But this is good news.
It's really good news. And this is the thing I was, talking about last week, is it's not that easy to overturn these things. Whether they're, regulations that protect our health, with the EPA, whether it's these, renewable offshore wind projects that are so close to completion, I mean, one of the, these judges, they just, they're sort of throwing up their hands, especially as the Interior Department can't produce any evidence. They won't sit down with security cleared employees of these companies to go over, because, as Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, said, if there's some security risk that's happening offshore, I need a briefing on it. Please sit me down. And, I need to know this for my state. Well, did she get a meeting with
No, of course not, because it's total BS. I mean, the idea, there's no there. They just throw this stuff up in a courtroom or whatever. It's like all the other claims this administration has made, sadly. I mean, the stolen election. Well, you pick your, pick the BS of the moment. And so to stop this, they make claims about national security or whatever. And of course, is there any briefing? Well, national security, that's something I should be briefed on. Then, well, dude, there's no real national security risk. We're just saying that because that's where we're trying to get rid of this project.
And it must be really hard to be an official in these departments and have to, play the idiot all the time on his behalf. To have to go in front of reporters and say something that's, not true, and then really stick, by it, and till the end.
Marco Rubio makes it look easy. All right. Okay. Is that it for us? Belinda?
No. Are you kidding?
No.
I've got some.
Go ahead. I'm so sorry. I'm up against the clock. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, just very, very quickly, we're having a real problem in California with Yosemite. Now, Yosemite was first protected by Abraham Lincoln, and I think it's 1864. He said, this place is beautiful, we have to protect it. Well, right now, people can get into Yosemite. They don't have to pay because there's no ranger at the gate, so they don't get a ticket with Trump's face on it. They're littering the park. There aren't rangers to clean the loos, the toilets. Scientists who are in the park are left to clean the toilets because there's not a ranger there. People are littering, they're flying drones, and they're base jumping. So just, cliff jumping off, the big rock. It's the big, beautiful.
So this is because of the cutbacks? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because there's 25%, they're 25% understaffed. And this is Yosemite is an absolute national treasure.
Sure, and it's a jewel in America, of course.
Yeah, and they in the, there are people from Europe who are walking through it going, oh, America, I didn't know that it was so beautiful and I can't believe it. But there are napkins everywhere. There's trash. I mean, so, make America beautiful or America the Beautiful, insane. But just wanted to tell you that. But I do want to get on to, there it is. Look at it.
So beautiful. Yeah, exactly.
It just is really, it's absolutely.
Remember when you went there and it was on fire?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we had to run.
Belinda was there visiting, and there literally was a fire in Yosemite. They had to flee to avoid being incinerated.
It was very scary. We were sitting by this beautiful creek that we'd be swimming in the day before after this huge climb up a mountain, and we looked up and there were little bits of white floating down, and the sky was this orangey color, and it was ash and it was a fire. It was awful, awful, awful.
Scary, but there you go.
Let's talk about the flying foxes. They're a type of fruit bat in Australia. This little town, Ingram, in northern Australia, was being absolutely overrun with them. They had 500,000 of them. There were so many that when they would fly out at night to go feeding and come back in the morning, they're bats, they're like vampires. The sky would be black with them. And at first people loved the bats, but once the population was growing and growing and growing, they were hating it. There was bat urine, feces everywhere. They had to shut down the schools. They had to shut down businesses. It was like a flying fox bathroom. And then when the temperatures got too hot, the bats would just fall out. If they died from heat exhaustion, they just would fall out of the sky, into the town. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We've got this gorgeous botanical garden, but it's, being wrecked with these bats. And what they worked out was that if you made a lot of noise when the bats were flying back in the morning from being out eating all night, it would disorientate them. They didn't like it. And, they really do have a sonar problem. They've got incredible hearing. And so they would leave and not come back to their nesting places, and they would go to the wetlands and mangrove swamps and things, nearby. But there wasn't enough, you couldn't get out there with enough pots and pans, the 5,000 people who lived in this little town and make enough noise. And I sent the link, Kim, if you want to get it, because these bats are pretty cute, these flying foxes. I mean, that's a great picture of them as well, but up close, they're very cute. And so they had to call in some experts, and they thought the $300,000, that's $300,000 US, so it's less than $200,000 American. They thought that was a really hefty price tag. But this company, they were biologically, this is what they did. They did, let's move animals very humanely, let's not kill any of them, because the mayor of this town was just being told to shoot them. Well, the thing is, you can't shoot 500,000 bats. That's hello.
That sounds like such an American idea. I'm really surprised that the Australians came up with it.
Yeah, no, I know.
I always feel like if we could just shoot all our problems in America, we got enough guns. No problem. I got the guns, man. Tell me where you want me to shoot.
Yeah, exactly. So this group came in, and they had really studied bats, and they'd helped other problems. There they are. See, they're quite cute when you see them up close.
Yeah, they're not like your average bat. Or are they? Is that where? Yeah, no.
Yeah. Well, I've been in. I mean, these fruit bats in Australia, they're also quite big. They sort of look like when they're up in the trees, they're about that long.
And there are 500,000 of them.
Yeah. But other towns had 1.5 million of them. I mean, crazy. But anyway, this organization knew how to get rid of them. They'd really studied bat behavior. So they came into the town, and they took the banging pots, using drums up a whole other level. They used pyrotechnics. They used even more noise, and they did it really systematically, early in the morning as the bats came back in, and all the smoke. And the smoke apparently took a really long time to clear, but it worked. The bats were like, oh, this place doesn't feel like home anymore. It's too smoky and noisy. And so they went to different locations. Now they have a homing device, so they would, keep, trying to come back. But the organization stayed there, made the noise, and after several days, they had gotten rid of them. They hadn't had to kill one, and they had relocated. Now, the thing is, they do have to use the pots and the drums every morning. Yeah, see, look at them. I mean, they're kind of cool.
Yeah, they are. I'm sure they're lovely, but
well, yeah. It's funny because Australians are really into them. But I remember being in Melbourne and being in their city park, and everyone going, "You've got to come at night for when they all take off." And I was like, yeah, it's cool. It's a little bit creepy, I mean, I've lived in places with bats before, but when we were kids, we lived in Singapore, and in Malaysia, they have bats. And if you throw your shoe up into the air, this is what we used to do as kids, the bats will attack it. And we thought that was hilarious as children.
Yeah, of course.
I didn't try it with the fruit bats as an adult in Melbourne. I knew better than to do that. But what they have to do with this little town, and people don't like it, is they have to do it every morning, make the noise, the banging of the pots and the drums. And it's around dawn, and they have to do it on Saturday and Sunday. But if they don't, the bats that are of the generation that were born in that town, they will keep wanting to come back there. So they say once that generation dies out, then hopefully the pot banging.
So it's
the
not
clamor,
indefinite. Yeah, it's not indefinite. That's unreal. What a great story. That's just wild.
So no one is dead, but they've moved, and they were doing things like setting up shop near kindergartens. They had to shut the kindergarten down. Businesses were shutting down because there was just too much, bat bathroom action happening.
Yeah, the
area.
guana or whatever they call it.
Guano. Well, they actually they're not like a bird. They do number ones and number twos, Mark. So I don't think. Yeah, you don't call it.
Well, that's why you're the expert, and I'm just some guy talking to the expert. I love this though. So potentially all's well that is going to end well. Yeah.
Well, I think when you get the right people, when you get an organization that is putting biodiversity first and says, hey, look, we've overtaken where they used to live. We've set up our town in their habitat. Let's work out a way for us both to be able to live here in harmony. And let's not just kill them. That would be dumb. And they're a protected species in Australia. That's also why they didn't start shooting them. Yeah.
In the 80s, I had big hair, says Hannah Pumpkins. One night, I was walking along a pond and a bat flew into my hair and got stuck.
Oh, God.
The bat was screaming. I was screaming. My friends were screaming. Strangers were screaming. Wow.
Oh, yeah, that would really be wild.
Oh,
wow.
Gosh. Well, Belinda, I love our visits. Thank you. You can find Belinda here regularly on Wednesdays in our live show, and we drop her video on the weekends to try to expose it to even more people. And we look forward to our next visit. You can find Belinda across social media. Belinda Waymouth is Waymouth. Give my love to your darling husband, Jake Johansson, who is one of my favorite people.
Yeah.
And it's The Planet Stupid for today. Bye, Belinda.
Bye.
More
It's The Planet Stupid. No, it's The Planet Stupid.
next time, only on The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Well, it wasn't pretty, to be honest, but we got through it. I'm tired because we don't have Tony, so poor Kim has to
I got the clothes
try
right.
to wrestle everything.
Well,
Yeah,
I
you did
screwed up
very
the
well.
Open. It's all
You
right.
did very well with the.
I got the bat pictures up, and I had
Yeah.
some.
Oh
wind
no.
turbines.
There's a lot good that you did. I'm just saying it was not.
It wasn't perfect. It wasn't Mark Thompson Show caliber. It was normal.
I'm drinking my Coachella Valley coffee, which makes all things good. You can have it too. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com, 10% off at checkout to use our discount code MarkT. And I'm drinking from the Born to Peacefully Protest mugs, big mugs, with that takes your whole hand.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tastefully, the Mark Thompson Show logo, tastefully placed on the back side. And if you want one of those, you get it at getmarkmerch.com. There's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of stuff. We try to bring the good stuff to you. Sometimes there's a lot of good stuff. Sometimes it's just a few good things. But really appreciate you.
CoachellaValleyCoffee.com really is the good stuff, I have to say.
It really is. And I'm hooked on this Zellman's.
Mm-hmm.
That's Zellman's Minty Mouth. You'll love it too. Jump on that. And you'll be surprised at how this stuff really works. I'm telling you, Courtney and I really put it to the test. Popped 3. Take them after you've had a meal, for example, and you had things like onions or garlic or whatever, and you wanted that. Yeah, check them out. They're our newest sponsor. They're good people. It's a small business, a family-run business, but they paid for an actual scientific study to make sure that the claims about Zellman's Minty Mouth working in terms of handling bad breath can actually be scientifically proven. And the study was, I think, like $200,000. So, and it works, so they can say it demonstrably. Zellmans.com. And again, use our discount code there. Same discount code as Kim has said with Coachella Valley Coffee. Mark T, 15% off your first order. Zellmans.com.
I mean, who knows where that will work? I'm just going to start using it at every website now just to see.
I would use that Mark T discount code. Give it a ride. Maybe it'll get you out of trouble.
That's all right.
Luis is saying, My proposal, the U.S. gets Iceland and a country to be named later and invaded later. My proposal is the U.S. gets Iceland and a country to be named and invaded later. In exchange, California joins Denmark and the EU, LOL. Hashtag American Idiot President. Luis always has good stuff. Yeah, that's a thought. Right. So I understanding this correctly, says Sausalito Vicky. Trump has said he won't use force to take Greenland. Yeah, he said that. He said, I could, but I won't. I could do this. I could do that. Replace the U.S. base on Greenland with a joint NATO base, says CC Ryder. I wonder if we'll have the courage to suggest that. And the White House did block Gavin Newsom from giving his speech that was planned for Davos. Yeah. There it is. Trump scraps tariffs on Europe and claims framework of a future deal on Greenland will happen after speaking with the NATO chief. Yeah, I think what Trump maybe found God on this, but it's tricky.
A picture the Guardian puts up of him. I mean,
he was like, "Oh yeah, I get it." Man, what a
he's looking a little rough around the edges these days.
The problem is Trump changes his stand with a light breeze, says Hilo Karen. Yeah, he does kind of. Yeah, he just went. Oh, he just went back on going back on it. Is that what you're saying? No. PNE says he just went back on it. I don't think so. Well, we'll see. I don't know.
That's what the latest in the Guardian.
He likes being in the news, and he likes that we're not talking about the Epstein files. So I would imagine that that's part of it too. Or maybe it is, as Rev P says, dementia. I don't know. He's a troubled figure.
The people in Greenland are like, you made what kind of a deal? Don't we have to vote on that?
Yeah,
Come on
it's
now.
just, I don't know. Back to complaining about the Nobel Prize and how the election was stolen in 2020. So, I don't know. Usha Vance is announcing she's pregnant. 4th child for J.D. Vance and that crew. Yeah. So, there's that. And tomorrow, what's on the show, Kim? Tomorrow, David Katz, right?
Tomorrow, Jessica Denson will come by.
I love Jessica Denson. Great stuff.
David Katz will be here, our former federal prosecutor, now defense attorney. We'll talk about the legality of a lot of different issues.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
The legality of a lot of issues. Listen to Kim BS toward the end of the show. I don't talk about the legality. Thank you, Kim. I know I put you through the ringer today. Thank you very much. Everybody, till tomorrow. Bye-bye.